Welcome to Logic and Liquidity, your source for smart financial analysis.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. And I have to say, looking at the absolute mountain of reports we have on the desk today, I feel like we all need to take a collective breath.
It is a lot. It's physically heavy. I think we printed out half a forest for this one.
It's heavy because the narrative has completely broken. If you were listening to this show in 2024 or even, early 2025, the story was simple.
So simple.
It was a race to build God. It was who builds the biggest brain. It was a straight lineup. But today, looking at this data from Menlo Ventures, the technical benchmarks from Silicon Flow, the financial teardowns from JP Morgan, that story is dead.
Completely dead.
Yeah.
The era of one model to rule them all is over. If you take nothing else away from today, it should be that. The monolith has crumbled.
And that's our mission today. We're going to cut through the noise of this billion-dollar horse race and figure out
what's actually happening.
What is actually happening? Because if you are still living in that 2024 mindset, defaulting to ChatGPT for your code, your emails,
your math, your creative writing, everything, you are, statistically speaking, doing it wrong.
You're leaving performance on the table.
Leaving performance, and you're likely overpaying.
Yeah.
And frankly, you're missing out on the actual superpowers that have emerged in just the last 12 months.
Right.
The market has fragmented. It's not a single app anymore. It's a toolkit.
A very expensive, very complex toolkit. We've got reasoning engines. We've got Agentic AI. We've got this DeepSeek Moment that I think everyone is still reeling from.
Oh, absolutely.
So today, we are going to evaluate the titans, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, Meta not, on their glossy marketing videos, but on the cold, hard numbers. We're talking coding scores, math capability, and, business viability.
And we're going to name names. We're going to rank them. Because for the first time, we actually can. The data is clear enough to say this one wins at X and that one wins at Y.
Before we get to the heavyweights, though, we have to set the scene. We are sitting here in January 2026. What exactly happened over the last 12 months to fracture this landscape so badly? The sources keep referencing the DeepSeek moment of 2025 like it was the asteroid hitting the dinosaurs.
In a way, it was. You have to remember the assumption everyone had in the early days. Intelligence is expensive. The prevailing dogma was, the scaling laws. The idea was that to get frontier-level performance, to get an AI that can pass the bar exam or write complex Python scripts, you needed $100 billion, a massive data center in the desert, and years of training on thousands of GPUs.
More compute equals more smarts. If you didn't have the GDP of a small country, you couldn't play.
Right. That was the mode. And then DeepSeek, this Chinese startup that most people hadn't even heard of in 2024, dropped a bomb in mid-2025.
Right.
They released a model that matched, and in some metrics actually exceeded, the best American models from OpenAI and Google. But here's the asteroid. They did it for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the training compute.
They didn't just brute force it. They optimized it.
They changed the economics of intelligence. They proved you don't need infinite money. You need smarter architecture. They optimized the training run. They optimized the inference. That forced everyone, OpenAI, Google, Meta, to scramble. It started a price war that we are all benefiting from right now.
So it was a race to the bottom on price.
Suddenly, the cost of being smart dropped through the floor.
So the DeepSeek moment was the moment the price tag fell off of intelligence.
Exactly. But the second big shift, and the one that actually affects our listeners daily, is the move from generative to agentic.
We throw that word around a lot now. Agentic.
Yeah.
In 2024, generative meant I type a prompt and the bot predicts the next word. It's a fancy parrot.
Right, a very convincing parrot.
It hallucinates, it gets creative, it writes a poem. What is agentic in 2026?
Okay, think of generative AI as a consultant you chat with over coffee. You ask a question, they give an answer. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, but the conversation ends there.
Right, it's a one-shot deal.
Agentic AI is an employee you give a project to. It have a loop. It perceives the task. It plans a series of steps. It executes those steps. Maybe it writes code. Maybe it browses the web. And then, crucially, it reflects. It checks its own work.
So it doesn't just say, here is some Python code. It writes the code, tries to run it in a sandbox, sees an error message, realizes it forgot a library, fixes the error, runs it again, and then gives it to you.
Exactly. It's the shift from chatting to doing. It's moving from predicting the next token to solving the problem.
And because of that, the tests had to change. The old benchmarks, the MMLU, the old math tests, The models just broke them.
They broke them. They were getting 99% on everything. It was useless data.
It's like giving a calculus test to a calculator. Everyone gets an A.
So the researchers created something ominous called Humanity's Last Exam.
Which sounds like a sci-fi thriller title. Or a really bad metal album.
It really does.
Yeah.
But it's a data set of 2,500 incredibly difficult multimodal questions. We're talking PhD-level biology diagrams where you have to interpret the cell structure, obscure historical text analysis in ancient languages, advanced calculus problems that require, like, creative leaps.
Wow.
And for the first time in a while, the models hit a ceiling. They couldn't just guess. They had to invent thinking modes just to pass it.
Okay, hold that thought on thinking modes, because that brings us directly to the heavyweight champion, the name that started this whole revolution, the company that literally became a verb, OpenAI.
The giant.
We are looking at the GPT-5 family, specifically the new flagship, GPT-5.2. Now, looking at the benchmarks from R&D World and SiliconFlow, is OpenAI still the king?
If you care about raw logic, if you care about pure, unadulterated intelligence, yes, unquestionably, they are the generalist king.
Okay. GPT 5.2 is essentially a brain in a jar that is better at reasoning than almost any human on the planet.
That's a bold claim. Better than most any human. Back it up with the numbers. Okay, look at the AME 2025 benchmark. This is the American Invitational Mathematics Examination. It's designed to identify the top high school math talent in the U.S.
Right. These are not simple arithmetic problems.
No, these aren't problems you solve with a calculator. They are logic puzzles that require deep insight. Most adults would score a 0. A math major might score a 50%. GPT 5.2 scored 100%.
100%. It didn't miss a single question.
Not one. And here's the kicker. It did it without using external tools. It didn't open a calculator app. It didn't run a Python script to brute force the numbers. It just thought through the logic and got the right answer.
That is terrifying capability.
It is.
That is wild. I remember when GPT-4 was struggling with basic multiplication a few years ago, it would say 2 + 2 is 5 if you gaslit it enough.
It's exponential growth. Then you look at GPQA Diamond. That's graduate-level science questions, biology, physics, chemistry. It's scoring 93.2%.
Okay, so that's world class.
But the metric that really caught my eye in the report was ARC-AGI 2.
ARC, that's the abstract reasoning corpus, right? That's the IQ test for machines.
Exactly. It's visual puzzles. Here is a grid of colored squares. Here is another grid. Here is a pattern you have never seen before. Deduce the rule and solve the next one.
So it tests fluid intelligence. Adaptability.
Yes. Memorizing the internet doesn't help you here because these puzzles are novel. GPT 5.2 scored 52.9%.
52% sounds low compared to the 100% in math. Is that actually good?
It sounds low, but you have to compare it to the field. Most models score in the single digits or low teens. Breaking 50% on ARC is a massive psychological barrier. It's a sign that the model isn't just regurgitating data, it is actually arguably thinking.
It's forming a mental model of a problem it has never seen.
It has to. There's no other way to solve it.
And that's literal now, isn't it? OpenAI has this thinking mode. I've seen it in the interface. You ask a hard question, and it says reasoning for like 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's their new trick. It's chain of thought processing on steroids. The model automatically detects if a query is complex. If you ask, what is the capital of France? It answers instantly.
Right. No thinking required.
But if you ask, design a microservice architecture for a high-frequency trading platform that minimizes latency to under 5 milliseconds, it shifts gears.
It takes a breath.
It spends compute time simulating different paths, checking for logical fallacies, structuring the answer, and refining its hypothesis before it types a single word.
It's like a difference between shooting from the hip and sitting down to write a thesis.
Precisely. Yeah. And this has had a massive impact on reliability. Remember the hallucination problem, the lawyer who cited fake cases problem?
Oh, I remember. The golden era of AI gaslighting.
That's largely solved for high-end tasks. The hallucination rate for GPT 5.2 is down to 6.2%. That is a roughly 40% drop from the previous generation.
So it's still not zero.
Still not zero. And that's important to remember, never trust it blindly. But it's crossed a threshold where enterprises feel safe deploying it for critical analysis.
Speaking of enterprise, OpenAI has been pushing a new metric in these reports, GDP-val. It sounds like something from an economics textbook. What are they measuring here?
This is their flex. It stands for GDP value. They are claiming that GPT 5.2 beats or ties human industry professionals, people, being paid actual salaries 70.9% of the time on well-specified knowledge work tasks.
So let me get this straight. If I give a task to a junior analyst, say, analyze the spreadsheet and write a summary, and I give the same task to GPT 5.2, the AI wins 70% of the time.
Yes, in terms of accuracy, speed, and comprehensiveness. And here's the part that changes the world.
Hmm.
The AI costs less than 1% of the human's hourly rate.
Wow.
That is the GDP value. It's the value proposition that is making CFOs salivate and HR departments sweat.
It's a sobering number. It really puts the disruption in disruptive tech. But OpenAI didn't just stay in the cloud this year. They made a move that confused a lot of people. They released GPT-OS. They went open source. I thought open was just a name.
Laughs. It was ironic for a long time. Close AI was the joke. But yes, this was a strategic pivot. They released GPT-OS 120B and GPT-OS 20B. These are open-weight models.
So you can download them?
You can download them, you can run them on your own metal.
Why would they do that? If they have the magic formula, why give it away?
It's a defensive move. We'll talk about Meta in a minute, but Meta's llama models were eating the world. Developers love open source. They want control. They don't want to send their data to an API black box.
Sure.
OpenAI realized if they didn't offer an open model, they would lose the developer ecosystem entirely. So they released these models to capture the people who want to run AI on their own servers. It's a hedge.
A hedge.
They keep the crown jewel, the big GPT 5.2 reasoning engine, locked up behind the paywall, but they give you a taste of the tech to keep you in the family.
Smart. It prevents the brain drain. But let's play devil's advocate. It's not all perfect scores and smart strategy. I've used GPT 5.2. It feels different.
You mean the vibe check?
Yeah. It feels robotic.
That is the consistent feedback in the qualitative surveys. Cold. Lecture-y. Overly formal. If you were trying to write a novel or a punchy marketing email or even just have a brainstorming session, GPT 5.2 often sounds like a bureaucrat.
Right.
It uses big words where small ones would do. It lacks that human spark, that warmth.
And it's slow.
That's the cost of thinking. If you engage the extended reasoning mode for a complex code review, you might be waiting 3 minutes for an answer.
3 minutes.
In 2024, we got used to instant streaming text. In 2026, we are learning patience again. In the age of TikTok, 3 minutes is an eternity.
And it's the most expensive option on the menu.
It is the premium product. 1.25 per million input tokens.
Yep.
$10 for output. If you're a startup, those costs eat your margin alive. You pay a premium for that logic.
So OpenAI is the expensive, brilliant, slightly boring mathematician. Let's move to the other giant, the one that arguably has the most to lose, Google.
The ecosystem giant.
We're talking Gemini 3, Pro, Flashlight. Google has always been about, we have the data. How does Gemini 3 stack up against that logic monster we just described?
Well, Gemini isn't trying to beat OpenAI on just raw logic scores, though they are very, very close. Google is playing a different game.
Right.
They are playing the integration game. Gemini 3 is the king of versatility.
Because it's not just a chatbot.
Right. If you use Google Workspace, Gemini isn't a website you visit. It's a button in your dock. It's a sidebar in your Drive. It's baked into Android. It removes the friction.
It's just there.
But the technical spec that really matters here is the context window.
The short-term memory.
Gemini 3 has a standard context window of 2 million tokens. In some research contexts, they are pushing 10 million.
10 million. Put 10 million tokens in perspective for us. What does that actually look like?
Okay, so OpenAI tops out around 128K or maybe 400K depending on the tier. 10 million tokens. It's 80 novels. It's an entire corporate legal archive.
Wow.
It's a code base with millions of lines. You can dump all of that into Gemini in one single prompt and ask questions about it. Find me every contradiction in these 5,000 legal contracts.
That's the needle in the haystack capability on steroids.
And because they integrated VO3, their video generation model, it's multimodal. You can upload a video, it watches it, understands it, and can even edit or generate new clips based on it.
Okay, that's a different world.
If you are a video editor or a data analyst, Google is offering a workflow that OpenAI simply can't match because OpenAI doesn't own your email and your hard drive.
The benchmarks look strong too. I see here it matches GPT 5.2 on the AMA math test.
It does, hitting that same 100% mark, but there is an asterisk.
There's always an asterisk.
Google's model uses code execution to solve the math. It recognizes it's a math problem, writes a Python script to calculate the answer, runs the script, and gives you the result. OpenAI does it via internal reasoning. Now, does the user care? Probably not. A right answer is a right answer. But technically, it suggests OpenAI's brain is still slightly better at pure logic, while Google is better at using tools to compensate.
What about the complaints? I feel like every time I go on Reddit or X, someone is yelling about Gemini.
The nanny software problem.
It refuses everything.
It's incredibly cautious. Google has a massive brand reputation risk. If Gemini says something racist or dangerous or controversial, it's front-page news.
So they've tuned it way down.
Way down. The model is tuned to be hyper-safe. If you ask for something even slightly edgy, political analysis, medical advice, creative writing with violence, Gemini tends to shut down. I can't help with that. I'm just a language model.
Which makes it useless for a lot of creative professionals. If I'm writing a crime thriller, I need the AI to describe a crime scene.
Exactly. It's the safe corporate option. Great for analyzing spreadsheets. Terrible for writing a grim, dark fantasy novel. And there's a technical weakness, too. Coding.
I thought Google would be great at coding. They invented half the languages we use.
You'd think so. It's good at analyzing code, thanks to that huge context window. It can read a massive library and explain it to you. But for writing new code,
Not so much.
it has a high rate of control flow mistakes, about 200 errors per million lines. That's higher than OpenAI or Anthropic.
Yeah.
It tends to get confused in complex logic loops.
And then there's the Hotel California aspect.
Vendor lock-in. If you build your workflow on Gemini, you're building it on Google Vertex AI. You're marrying Google Cloud. Moving away later is a nightmare. You're in the ecosystem, for better or worse.
So OpenAI is logic, Google is scale. Now let's talk about the company that seems to have stolen the hearts of the actual engineers. Anthropic,
The enterprise darling.
the Claude 5 family. Opus, Sonnet, Haiku. The headline in the Menlo Ventures report was a shocker. Anthropic has overtaken OpenAI in enterprise market share, 32% to 25%. How did the underdog pull that off? OpenAI had the brand name.
2 words: coding and trust.
Let's start with coding. We just said Google struggles with it. OpenAI is great at it. Why is Claude better?
Claude Sonnet 4.5 and the new Opus 5 are simply the best at agentic coding. Look at the SWE Bench verified scores. This tests the ability to solve real-world GitHub issues.
Wow, so real bugs?
Real bugs in actual open-source software. Claude consistently hits the 77–80% range. But it's not just the score. It's the computer use capability.
This is the feature where Claude takes over your mouse.
Yes, it doesn't just generate code text. You can look at a screen, recognize buttons, move the cursor, click, type, and navigate operating systems. It scored 61.4% on Alice World, which measures that digital worker ability.
That's profound. It's not simulating a worker. It is a worker. It uses the computer like a human does.
Imagine you're a developer. You can say to Claude, go into this legacy code base, find where the payment API is failing, deploy a fix to the staging server, and run the tests. And it actually navigates the UI to do it.
And developers love the vibe. We talked about GPT being robotic. Claude feels considerate.
It writes cleaner architecture. It explains its thinking in a way that feels like a senior engineer mentoring you, not a machine spitting output. It feels like a partner.
The safe pair of hands.
That's the branding. Anthropic uses constitutional AI. They gave the model a constitution values, like freedom, opposition to torture, privacy. This makes the model predictable.
So corporations know what they're getting.
Corporate legal teams love it because they know Claude isn't going to go rogue. It doesn't need as many external guardrails because the safety is baked into the personality.
Doesn't have a downside.
It can be slow. The thinking process for Opus is heavy. And strangely, while the code logic is great, it sometimes leaves resource leaks. It might forget to close a database connection in the code it writes, so you still need a human to review it.
Okay, so still not perfect.
But for a coding partner, it's the current gold standard.
Okay, so that's the big 3 proprietary models. You pay them, you use their API. But 2026 is also the year of the open source rebellion. We touched on this with the DeepSeek Moment, but the biggest player in open weights is actually Meta.
Zuckerberg's long game. Llama 4.
Llama 4 Scout, Maverick, Behemoth, they are really leaning into the naming. What is the philosophy here? Why is Meta giving this away?
Democratizing intelligence. Or, if you're cynical, scorched earth.
Less. Okay.
Meta doesn't make money selling cloud APIs like Google or OpenAI. They make money on ads, so they can afford to commoditize the model layer. They're giving away the technology that Google and OpenAI are trying to sell.
And Llama 4 Scout has a specific superpower that rivals Google,
The 10 million token context window.
but running locally.
That is the game changer. Imagine you are a major law firm or a healthcare provider or a defense contractor. You have 50 years of incredibly sensitive data, patient records, classified blueprints.
Right.
You cannot upload that to Google Cloud or OpenAI. It's illegal or just too risky.
But you want the AI to analyze it.
With Llama 4 Scout, you download the model. You put it on your own secure servers in your own basement. You feed it that 10 million tokens of private data. The data never leaves your building.
So you get the intelligence of Gemini with the privacy of a safe.
It is the only option for a lot of industries.
Yeah.
It really is. And then you have Llama 4 Maverick. This uses a mixture of experts architecture.
Explain that term, mixture of experts. We hear it a lot with these efficient models.
Imagine you have a panel of 100 experts. One is a biologist, one is a poet, one is a coder. When you ask a question about poetry, only the poet wakes up. The other 99 stay asleep.
So you don't burn energy powering the whole brain.
Exactly. Maverick is a 400 billion parameter model. It's huge. But for any given word, it only activates 17 billion parameters. It's incredibly fast and cheap to run if you have the hardware.
That's the catch, isn't it? Free software isn't free to run.
No. You need the GPUs. To host a 70B or 400B model, you need a rack of NVIDIA H100s or the new chips. That's an $80,000 to $100,000 capital investment just to get started.
So it's free for the Fortune 500, but expensive for the guy in the garage.
Unless you use a hosted version, which brings us back to APIs. But the existence of Llama puts a ceiling on how much OpenAI can charge. If OpenAI gets too expensive, people just switch to Llama.
Which brings us back to DeepSeek. You called them the efficiency disruptor.
DeepSeek is the reason the price of intelligence is collapsing. Their DeepSeek V3 and R1 models proved you could build state-of-the-art reasoning for pennies.
How cheap are we talking?
We are talking. DeepSeek's API costs were around 0.14 per million input tokens. Compare that to the old OpenAI GPT-4 pricing of $15 or even $30.
That's not a discount. That's a rounding error. That's virtually free.
It's a 99% reduction. It forced the entire market to reprice. DeepSeek R1 is a reasoning model that uses chain of thought, just like OpenAI's O1 or O3 series, but it does it so efficiently that it breaks the business model of the big U.S. labs.
It proved you don't need a U.S. budget to build a U.S. competitor.
Not anymore.
So we have the big three, we have the rebels, but are there any other specialized players we should care about? The best of the rest.
You can't ignore Elon, XAI, and Grok.
Grok 4.1, is it just a Twitter bot?
No, it's serious tech. Its superpower is real-time data. It is plugged directly into the X platform, formerly Twitter. If a new story breaks right now, Grok knows about it instantly.
So it's always up to date.
The other models have a knowledge cutoff, or they rely on slow web crawling. They might not know about the earthquake that happened 10 minutes ago. Grok does.
And has a spicy mode.
It does. It's less filtered. It's witty. And surprisingly, it's holding the #1 spot on the El Marina ELO ranking right now.
The blind taste test.
The blind taste test. People prefer Grok's answers because they feel less sanitized. They feel more real.
What about Europe? Are they still in the race?
Mistral, the French champion. They are crucial for the EU market because of sovereignty. They offer glass box visibility. You can see why the model made a decision.
For compliance.
For EU compliance and GDPR, that transparency is non-negotiable. Mistral Medium 3 hits about 90% of the frontier performance, but at 15% of the cost. It's the good enough and legal option.
And finally, Microsoft. They own half of OpenAI, but they're building their own stuff too.
The 5.4 series, these are small language models, or SLMs. The goal here is Edge AI, running on your laptop, running on your phone, without internet.
So intelligence on the device.
5.4 is tiny but incredibly dense with logic. It allows your device to be smart, even when you're in airplane mode. It's bringing intelligence to the device, not the cloud.
Okay, we've covered the tech, we've covered the rankings, now we have to follow the money. Section 6, the business angle. Who is actually making money here? Because we hear about these massive valuations, but is it real?
The spend is real. Enterprises have moved from experimental R&D, a few guys in an innovation lab playing with prompts, to core infrastructure.
Okay.
Spend on LM APIs more than doubled in the last 6 months alone, from $3.5 billion to $8.4 billion.
That's a vertical line on a chart.
It is. But the money is consolidating. It's flowing to OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. But here is the danger zone, the burn rates.
How much are they spending to make that $8.4 billion?
A lot more. OpenAI has revenue projections of $200 billion by 2030, which is optimistic. But right now, the projections say they might hit a peak burn of $45 billion in 2028.
Spending $45 billion in a single year, just to keep the lights on.
Data centers, energy, chips, talent. It is the most capital-intensive startup game in history. They have to keep running just to stay in the same place.
And DeepSeek is trying to spoil the party by making the product worthless.
Exactly. If the price of the model goes to zero, Where's the value? The value shifts to the application layer. It shifts to what you build with the model.
The agent economy.
Right. Code generation is already a $1.9 billion ecosystem. But the trend is many LLM companies. Companies aren't just using generic GPT-5. They're taking their own proprietary data, their sales records, their legal history, and fine-tuning specialized agents. A legal agent. An HR agent.
So the moat isn't the model. The moat is your data.
The moat is your data and how you orchestrate the agents.
All right. We have looked at the board. We have analyzed the players. It is time for the final verdict. We promised rankings.
And I'll say the disclaimer one last time. Best is subjective, but we can categorize them.
Category 1, the Best for Reasoning and Math Award. Who gets the gold medal?
That goes to GPT 5.2 from OpenAI.
Why?
The 100% IB score. The dominance in abstract reasoning.
Yeah.
If you are a scientist, a mathematician, or you need the absolute highest probability of a correct logical deduction, you pay the premium for GPT 5.2. It is the smartest brain in the jar.
Category 2, the Best for Coding and Agents Award.
Claude 5.1 Sonnet Opus from Anthropic.
Why Claude?
Trust. Low error rates in complex workflows. And that computer use capability. If you want an AI to act as a developer, to actually do the work on your machine, you choose Claude. It's the engineer's choice.
Category 3, the Best Daily Driver. The Ecosystem Award.
Gemini 3 Pro from Google.
Because it's everywhere.
It's in your docs, your email, your phone. It has the massive context window for your files. It's the best all-rounder for someone living in the Google ecosystem. It removes the friction of copy-paste.
Category 4, the Best for Privacy and Security.
Llama 4 Scout from Meta.
The Private Library.
If you have sensitive data and you have the hardware, this is the only real choice at the frontier level. It keeps your secrets secret.
And finally, the Best Value Award. The Penny Pincher's Choice.
It's a tie between DeepSeek V3 and Gemini Flash.
Speed and price.
If you're building an app with millions of users, you cannot afford GPT 5.2. You use DeepSeek or Flash. You get 90% of the intelligence for 1% of the cost.
So what does this all mean for us, the listeners? We've gone from, wow, a chatbot, to this complex matrix of choices.
It means the market has matured. We have moved from chatbot novelty, look, it wrote a haiku, to industrial-grade intelligence. We are entering the era of compound AI.
Define that.
It means we stop looking for one magic model. We start blending. You use a probabilistic LLM for the creative stuff, you use deterministic code for the math, and you wrap it all in an agentic framework.
An agentic orchestration.
That is the job title of the future.
Yeah.
You won't just chat with an AI, you will be a manager. You will manage a fleet of specialized agents.
Okay.
You'll say to your coding agent, build this app. You'll say to your legal agent, review the terms. Your job is to make sure they play nice together.
Which leads us to our final, somewhat provocative thought for the day. We mentioned OpenAI's GDP val metric earlier. The claim that GPT 5.2 is beating human professionals 70% of the time at less than 1% of the cost.
It's the statistic that keeps me up at night.
If that is true, and even if it's only half true, what does the human workforce look like in 2027?
That's the question. Are we ready for the flattening of organizational structures? If one person, equipped with 10 AI agents, can do the work of a 10-person department, corporations are going to get very flat very fast.
Right.
The middle management layer, the junior analyst layer, they are in the crosshairs.
It's a scary and exciting thought. The leverage is massive, but so is the disruption.
The advice is, don't be the one trying to do the work manually. Be the orchestrator.
Be the manager of the machines. Don't just pick the famous name because you recognize it. Pick the right tool for the job. Whether it's the logic of OpenAI, the coding skills of Claude, or the privacy of Llama, use the chessboard.
Exactly.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. Good luck out there.
See you in the future.